The legend of Atlantis is one of the most enduring mysteries of our time. First described by the Greek philosopher Plato more than 2,000 years ago, Atlantis has captured the imaginations of explorers, historians, and dreamers ever since. According to Plato, Atlantis was an actual historical place, a great city situated in the Atlantic Ocean that was home to a wise and prosperous people until it was suddenly and mysteriously swallowed by the sea. Despite countless searches, however, no trace of Atlantis has ever been found, and its true nature and location remains one of history's greatest mysteries. In this video, we will explore 10 astonishing theories about Atlantis that will blow your mind. Let's get started. Number 1. Atlantis was a real island in the Atlantic Ocean that sank. This is perhaps the most popular theory about the location of Atlantis. Proponents of this theory believe that Atlantis really did exist as an actual island in the Atlantic Ocean, just as Plato described, and that it was home to a thriving civilization until some natural disaster caused it to sink beneath the waves. Supporters of this theory point to the fact that Plato's description of Atlantis includes many geographical details, such as its location in the Atlantic Ocean, its size, and its many rivers and canals, as evidence that he was based on a real place. Number 2. Atlantis was based on the Minoan civilization of Crete and Santorini. Another popular theory is that Atlantis was inspired by the Minoan civilization of Crete and the volcanic eruption of Santorini. The Minoan civilization was a Bronze Age culture that flourished on the island of Crete from around millennia 2700 to 1450 BC. It was known for its advanced palaces, art, and trade networks. The eruption of Thera, now known as Santorini, is one of the largest volcanic eruptions in history, and it occurred around 1600 BC. It is thought that the massive amount of ash and debris ejected from the volcano may have caused widespread destruction and ecological devastation across the Aegean Sea. Plato's description of Atlantis being destroyed by a natural disaster could possibly be referring to the volcanic eruption of Thera. Number 3. Atlantis was Antarctica before it was covered in ice. This is a more outlandish theory, but it has some supporters. Proponents of this theory believe that Atlantis was located in Antarctica, and that it had a much warmer climate than it is today. They point to the fact that Plato described Atlantis as being very far south as evidence that he was talking about Antarctica. However, this theory is generally not well supported by mainstream scholars. Number 4. Atlantis was a metaphor. Some scholars believe that Atlantis was never intended by Plato to be a real place at all, but was actually a metaphor for Plato's ideal society. In this view, Atlantis represents the qualities that Plato believed were necessary for a just and harmonious society, such as wisdom, courage, and temperance. When Plato described the destruction of Atlantis, he was actually talking about the destruction of these qualities in human society. Number 5. Atlantis was located in the Caribbean. More recently, some explorers have proposed that Atlantis was actually located in the Caribbean, perhaps near the Bahamas. They point to the fact that Plato described Atlantis as being close to the Strait of Gibraltar. It's a clue that it was actually in the Caribbean. This theory is also supported by the discovery of several underwater ruins in the Caribbean that date back to the time period in which Plato said Atlantis existed. However, there is no evidence that any of these ruins were part of a great city like Atlantis. Number 6. Atlantis was a lost civilization in the Mediterranean. Similar to the previous theory, some scholars believe that Atlantis was not a single city, but rather a lost civilization that existed in the Mediterranean Sea. One possible candidate for the location of Atlantis is Tartessos, an ancient civilization that flourished in what is now southern Spain between the 8th and 2nd centuries BC. Tartessos was known for its wealth and its advanced technology, and it is possible that Plato may have been referring to it when he wrote about Atlantis. Number 7. Atlantis was a technologically advanced society that was destroyed by its own hubris. According to this theory, Atlantis was a highly advanced society that possessed great wealth and power. However, the Atlanteans became so arrogant and overconfident that they angered the gods, who then destroyed them as a punishment for their hubris. This theory is supported by Plato's description of Atlantis as being incredibly wealthy and powerful, as well as his claim that the Atlanteans were ultimately destroyed by their own flaws. Number 8. Atlantis was a memory of a prehistoric global flood. According to this theory, Atlantis was not a real place at all, but rather a symbolic representation of a prehistoric global flood that occurred thousands of years ago. Proponents of this theory believe that the memory of this flood was preserved in the collective unconscious of humanity, and that Plato was tapping into this ancient memory when he wrote about Atlantis. Number 9. Atlantis was a colony of aliens, or an ancient advanced race. There are also those who believe that Atlantis was a colony of aliens, or an ancient advanced race that visited Earth thousands of years ago. These theories often involve claims of extraterrestrial contact or hidden ancient texts that reveal the true nature of Atlantis. However, there is no evidence to support these claims. Number 10. Atlantis never existed and was entirely a myth created by Plato. Finally, some scholars argue that Atlantis never existed at all, and that it was entirely a myth created by Plato to make a philosophical point. In this view, Plato was using Atlantis as a tool to criticize the political and social conditions of his own time by showing what happens when a society becomes corrupt and unjust. So what do you think? Which theory do you find the most fascinating? Or do you have your own ideas about where Atlantis might be located? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.